You're all here. Well done, it's great. Another 2 people missing, which is good. It's a good sign. Hopefully they'll get another chance. One guy left last week at the beginning. He's like, you know, sometimes when you hit a post, someone says something and you hit a post and the shadow comes out and you can't deal with it there and then. Another guy hasn't turned up, we can't get in touch with. But you're still here. You need to keep congratulating yourself. If you're uncomfortable, good, you know. And if you're confused, good. They're all good signs. That's what it's all about. You need to be confused, you need to be uncomfortable. Don't think you're going to grow in comfort, because you're not. You'll search all your life looking for comfort to grow. You will not grow in comfort. You can recuperate in comfort, and we all need a little bit of that. But you know, if you're talking about growing, you're not going to grow outside the forge. You've got all these guys stood outside the forge like that, saying, fucking, I'm in the forge, look how warm it is. Actually, you know, we've got to go into the forge. And you know when you're in the forge, because it does trigger doubts, it does trigger confusions, it can trigger mass discomfort at any time. You can come to any one of these sessions and hear something that will trigger a shadow. That's the whole idea. This course is a poultice. It is a poultice. So you come to this course and it will bring a shadow out from you at some stage during the course, or maybe more than one. That's good. Bring it out, expose it, let it go. When Arjuna is going to war and he's got Lord Krishna from the Bhagavad Gita at his side, Arjuna suddenly looks out and he sees members of his family, and he sees friends on the opposite army, and he doesn't want to fight. He suddenly loses his will to fight because he sees all these people he knows. And Lord Krishna is saying to him, there's no room for lamentation in war. You have to go out, you have to kill the enemy. So the idea with the whole thing about the Bhagavad Gita and the Quran and the Christian Bible and the divine comedies, it's all a parable for the internal jihad, for the internal battle. So what he's saying is, all these parts of ourselves that we're thinking, well, do I want to kill that? Do I want to let that go? There's no room for us to be sympathetic with these parts of us. We need to bring them out, we need to expose them, we need to let them go. Otherwise we're just carrying this huge Minerv ball around all the time. That's locking us. We need to bring it through and create it. Everything I'm going to do with you and everything I have done with you is about bringing you back inside. We've got to stop pretending that we're in the furnace, and we've got to step into the furnace. And we can do it with incremental steps, or we can just dive in, depending on our personality. But that's the key. It's always coming back to there. That's why the books are important. So did anybody get a chance to read The Power of Now? That was a bit more of an easier read, but The Power of Now is about the internal jihad. So any comments? Doesn't matter, again, there's no right answers with this. If you think it's shit, that's okay. The main thing for me is that you've read it, and if it sinks in 10 years' time, that's the job done. Because once you've read these books, they're in you, and at some point they will bear fruit, even if not immediately. So any comments on The Power of Now?
I really like the beginning part, talking about time.
Yeah.
You say that we can't change the past. There's no point dwelling on it. We can't really control the future. So there's no point, you can plan for things, but you've got to live. The whole concept obviously is live for the now.
Yeah.
Be in the now. And I like that concept of, you can worry about things you said or done and think about the past and not dwell on it, or you can be anxious about the future. But if you just concentrate on the now, you relieve all that stress and that's what I was great.
That's good, yeah, because that's all there is. Yeah. The concept of that, you've heard it before, and everyone says now is the only time we've got. But the key with that is to do. It's not to know. Knowing is the first step, but we've got to do it. We've got to actually start doing that. Anybody else on Power of Now?
That's when he was talking about surrender. It's just interesting how, like initially when you read it, you're thinking, well, surrender is like giving in. What he explains that's more about in the piece.
Yeah.
About how when you let yourself go for it, that you're not just caught up in your own sort of whether it's a read or whatever, or things you did in the past, or, and like you were saying, he talks about religion and health, relationships, but there's just one message in there about, you saying about forgiveness as well. It's a non-issue when you're in now, you're not thinking about what somebody did in the past, but something.
It doesn't exist, other than as a fragment in our mind. Yeah. And what we're often told about the future in our mind doesn't really exist. There isn't a place you're going to get to when you think, I'm there. Everything I've discovered out there has always just led me more inside. You get all the material stuff and then you just think, I know this isn't it. So you start going inside again. He talks a lot about the pain body, doesn't he? Which is the shadow, which goes back to Jung, Carl Jung, which is about the archetypes, the shadows, the old parts of us that need a voice, that need to be released. So it's finding a way that's unique to you, that nobody else can do, that you can express that voice, whether that's in a right cross. God is in a right cross. I was watching a program this morning on one of the top gyms in the world, one of the top boxing gyms in the world, and he said, God is in the right cross. God is in this punch. And he didn't look at that as a violent thing. He looked at his way of transferring this energy and bringing it through the horn of the chest was through his punching, which is how I feel. If I do short-range punching, I'm not thinking about hurting people, I'm thinking about bringing God through my hands. Or if I'm writing, bringing God through my writing. Or whatever I'm doing, anything. But there's something unique to everyone in here. There's something that, when you look at things, you think, why aren't people doing that? I can't understand, why don't people do that? When I was starting to talk about fear, I'm thinking, why aren't people doing this? That's because it's your job, you twat. It's your job, it's you. It's you that should be doing that. But the reason no one else is actually isolating that and working on it is because it's your job. It's unique to you. That feeling when you're thinking, I don't understand why people don't do that. Like when we're talking about film, there's something you're looking at in film and you're thinking, so I don't understand why people don't do this. That's because it's your job, because it's unique to you. Whatever it is you're in, with Mark, with this huge spirituality that you have, and finding a place to create with that. It's unique to you. And when you think to yourself, which you do, who the fuck am I to do this? Well, who the fuck are you not to? Because this is uniquely yours. It's not a gift that's similar to him or similar to them, or you can compare with this person, or you can measure with that person. It's actually a unique fingerprint that's been given to you. And if we don't go out and create with it, it will internalize itself and crush us. We need to continually create. And the reason I'm doing that is because it's a lower chakra energy, and it's powerful, and it comes up through the chakras, and it comes out through the heart chakra. This is the center where the Atman sits, where God sits. The spark of the soul sits here, and it's about expanding this out so that we can create anything we want to create. And when we go to create, we get these archetypes jump in front of us. Someone said to me the other day, well, how do we find the shadows? Well, you're sitting in them. When you're belligerent, when you're jealous, when you're angry, when you're scared, when you're hesitant, when you procrastinate, that's the shadow. That's not you. The true part of you knows it can create anything. That's why you're here. That's why you get excited when you see something huge and you think, I know I can do that. And then 50 people tell you you can't. Well, I have to say, fuck those 50 people, because they're wrong. Just because they're not creating it doesn't mean we can't create it. And I know I can create it, and you know you can create it. And that's what excites you. You have this feeling of euphoria because you think, I know I can do that. And then you share it with somebody and they say, who the fuck do you think you are? And you think, oh yeah, who do I think I am? Because they trigger a shadow. I even had it when I got my first book published. I said to one of my best mates, I says, I reckon I could do this as a living. He goes, fucking keep your feet on the ground. Fucking hell. He said, you've had a bit of luck, underlined, italics, bold, you've had a bit of luck getting a book published, but, don't let it go to your head. I said, oh yeah, you're right. Fucking hell, what was I thinking? Where was that? I've got a station that I'm not supposed to rise above, haven't I? And then I thought to myself, no, that's not right. Because I've been published. And because I've been published, and I've done one book, that means I could do 2 books. That means I could do 5 books. That means I could do 40 books. That means I could do a film. It means I could do a play. It means I could win a BAFTA. It means I could win a fucking Oscar. Why couldn't I? Why can't I be pissing in the next trough to Bill Murray, like my mate was when he got Oscar nominated? Why couldn't I do that? Why can't I exchange, swap watch stories with LL Cool J in the toilets at the BAFTAs? Because I can, I know I can, and we all know we can. So you can become the best in the world at something, only you know what. So you've got to find that unique something that you're thinking, why don't people do that? I think I could do that. And then place it in the sunlight, give it a bit of water, a bit of soil, and watch it grow. It wants to grow. Alan Titchmarsh said it. It wants to grow. You just got to help it a little bit. Take it out of the corner, give it a bit of sunlight, let it grow. It wants to grow. So we've got to go towards the shadows, to clear the shadows, so that we can become who we want to become. And who are we not to do that? And if there are 50 people telling us that we can't, even more incentive, even more reason to do it. Anything that feeds the ego, try to let it go. But if it's, I like to go towards things that bring the ego out. So if you need a fancy car to act as a poultice, get that, and it will bring it out. And you'll find yourself having vanity crashes. like I have. And if you need a lot of money, because you think that's important, earn the money. Sooner the better, get it. If you think you need a porn queen as a girlfriend, go and get her. Go and have sex every day. Get all the stuff that you see on the films, and it'll wear off within about a week, and then you'll know it's not that, you can go beyond it. All of these things will act as a poultice to bring forward the parts of you that are stopping you from achieving. There is no darkness inside you. There's no evil inside you. There is no good or bad inside you. There is just energy. And there is it's the alpha and the omega. There's the opposite energies that we need to bring together and create. For me personally, I had to be on the door. There's no doubt in my mind, I had to go there. What I needed was on Buster's nightclub. There's nowhere else I could have got that. Now, I'm not saying you couldn't get it from a different area, or you don't have to, not everybody has to go on the door. That was my unique path. And what I got from that was all these guys, all these leviathans that I looked up to were all just as scared as me, but they'd learned to captain it, and they'd learned to deliver it and build it into something. And a few of the guys that left the door, there's one or two guys I was talking to recently who have become almost tycoons in business because they took that same lesson and that same courage and tenacity and placed it somewhere else. Whereas I know other guys who were on the door, who were behemoths on the door, who were still either not working or working in, you know, demeaning jobs that aren't up to where they are because they can't transfer it across. So for me, I wouldn't change my path. I had to be there. But it did almost crush me because I went to a very dark place. But I think I needed to go there because if I didn't write the book and didn't do the stuff, I wouldn't be delivering the information I deliver now. So for me, it was the right place, but it doesn't mean the door's the right place for everybody. You could find exactly what I found there on a mountain or in business or in anywhere. You can find it anywhere. You can find it where it's hot for you. For me, the fear of violent confrontation was debilitating. It was affecting my whole life. It affected, in fact, I was frightened of any change. If I was at work and we had new people coming into work, I was frightened of anything that was different, any change. So I wanted to go and find something very extreme so that everything below it was overcome. And that's what happened. Same as when I gave up alcohol. I gave up alcohol because it was a big thing. It was a big test of my internal strength. But when I gave that up, loads of other little things below it just disappeared because they were all things that were much easier than that. So if you do the big stuff, in the Bible it says, seek first the kingdom of heaven and all things will be given unto you. So go for the really big stuff if you can. And if you do that, all the stuff below it shatters. So you have to have control. First of all, if you control the palate, what you eat, what you drink, what you ingest, what you listen to, what you watch, everything that goes in, if you control that, all the other senses will fall into line. So just by controlling the palate, you'll automatically start to control everything else. Because it is, I can name the people in my life on one hand who have controlled the palate. Glenn Smith is he's always been my inspiration on palate. He's always been the Meister, you know. And he's the guy that we all of us within our group look up to Glenn on. That's his big thing. So if you want to talk to Glenn, I'm sure he would be happy to talk to you about it. But once you get that, you start to captain more of the senses. But it's not getting it to the point, like I said, I used to get, when I was doing the abstinence, I got my food to the point where if I had a chocolate bar, I felt guilty for a week. So that's the other extreme. So then you're not a master of it, it's still a master of you again. So it's getting to the point where you're moderate. I'd say my daughter's, Lisa's pretty much there, because she asks what she wants, but she's just very moderate. So she's very healthy and she has a healthy attitude towards it, but she's had to go through lots of extremes to get there. So get the food right first. You know, people are talking about doing huge things, but they're forced to don't overweight. Well, that's a huge thing. Get your weight right first. People are talking about, changing the world, but they don't change their underpants twice a week. They haven't got basic control of their grooming. So first of all, get self-sovereignty. Get control of all the real basic stuffs. Everybody's so busy doing big, ostentatious things, and of course, I've been one of them people. They're so busy doing the big stuff, they're missing the big stuff. The big stuff is the little stuff in your life, Your wife doesn't want to have sex with you, so you slam the door and don't talk to her for 2 days. What's that all about? Where's the control there? That's what I discovered this many years ago. I'm thinking, so what does that make me? That makes me a bully, So just little things like that. Not being able to resist any of the senses. You see a bare ankle and you need to fucking have a wank, or you see a pie and you have to have 3, or somebody does that to you in the car and you have to get out. This isn't control, is it? This is just life doing that with you like a puppet. So let's get them things right. They're really important. We all have these shadows. So if you have a strong mentality, and it all starts with the food, if you have a strong mentality, you can clear yourself out of shadows. Just like a nightclub, it's exactly the same. You have to put a doorman on here. That's a really good point. When Lewis was overweight, he pushed everybody away from him. Nobody wanted to be around him. When he got his weight right and his energy balanced, because his energy is very powerful, suddenly he was attracting people from all over the shop that wanted to help him, wanted to give him stuff, wanted to train him, you know, wanted to be around him. Completely changes everything. So if you do one thing, get your food right. People don't, I think the key is people don't see that one of the biggest siddhis, one of the biggest miracles is control of the diet. Gandhi went from being a guy who was, what do they call it, a sex addict and a shit, you know, a shit lawyer. He went from being a very weak, small Asian guy to having 300 million followers. And he says that he did it all on the strength of palate. And he took it, obviously, he got his senses, this is the guy that was trying to lead nations. So he got his senses very fine-tuned, very fine-tuned. I'm not saying he got everything right, because I know he didn't, but he's not done too bad. He brought the British Empire to its knees, the most powerful empire in the world, without any violence. So, volunteer to warm us up. Thank you.
Hand knees up, back's jogging. Face to the inside, step around. Hand facing out. Left back leg, hamstrings.
Thank you. Okay, everyone, come round. Emma's going to do a little bit of teaching on the fence for us.
So the best thing to do is try and keep your distance. And there's two approaches to it. There's the aggressive approach, and there's the passive approach. And the passive approach is where you're trying to, you don't want to get in a fight. And I've never been in a fight, but I wouldn't want to. So I think the best thing to do is the passive approach, where you say, look, mate, I don't want to fight. And that's where the question comes in, and don't I know you? And then you bang, or whatever your question might be. The other approach is the more aggressive approach if they're not backing down, and that's when you've got to get their adrenaline going. I mean, I don't know if anyone's been pushed before, but even by someone small, it gets your adrenaline going.
It does, yeah.
Best way to do is to keep your hands open, because that's more aggressive and they could think you're going to push them. Keep your hands open, keep your distance, and if they're walking towards you, that's when it's really important to keep your distance, because you've really got to measure how far away you are to punch and stuff. But basically the fence is passive, and then you ask a question like, don't I know you, and that's when you hit. And you can't stand there, you can't go, don't I know you. And it's a lot easier to get power from swinging your arm back, but the best thing to do is just relax, keep relaxed, and say, look, don't I know you, and then you bang it in. The more aggressive approach is actually a lot harder, because you might have to get closer, push them, but you've really got to go, look. And that's when you've got to get the adrenaline going and say, I don't know if any of you would push, but even if I do it to someone bigger than me, just that one push.
Just wants to bruise everything.
It does shock the adrenaline, doesn't it? Yeah.
No, it does. It's fat to the body, you can't help it, especially if you don't know someone. If someone pushes you, you're just like, it's sending you into a state of shock. And that's another thing as well, is when you're in confrontation, you might be in shock, because you're thinking, oh my God, I've never been in a fight in my life. And that's where you've got to control your own fear. And that's the quite good thing that I like about the fence, that you'll go, look, I really don't want to fight you, and they might be going, yeah, well, and they're thinking they're in control, but actually you've got complete control of them, because you know what you're doing, you're being passive, and you're lining them up for when you're going to hit them.
That's great. Shall we get a pads? Get pads on. So that was really good, really good. Very clear, it's really concise. And you know the difference between it, and I think it's important what you're doing when you're teaching is what you're saying. I've not had a fight, and I don't want to be in a fight. This is what we do with the fence. It's good to teach what you know, exactly like that. I think that was really good. That was clear, and what you're talking about the fence is really clear. And the fact that you would personally, with your personality, you would choose a passive fence, which I always do as well. I mean, I've got much more experience, so I know exactly when to go from one to the other, but the passive fence is always, I think if you can, is always the best one. What was you going to say, Glenn? Sorry.
I had a thing on Tuesday. Somebody blocked the entrance to the gym, and my brother couldn't get through for a lorry. So when I spoke to the two guys, one of them read up on me. So I used the fence and talked it down, but it killed me afterwards because he said real bad things to me. And I walked away and it killed me, Geoff. 2 days. I wanted to kill him. Like I said, I know all the things that could have happened and would have happened. I know all that, but you know, and I'm reading about the ego in a minute, like a book called Wild Love. But it's hard to get out of the system.
Yeah. So where did it go? I'm just trying to think, because there's a lot of he's aggressive, and I know that triggers your own adrenaline, so you start to match his with yours. But where did he do it from the cab? Did he do it from the?
No, he got out.
Yeah.
But the confrontation didn't bother me. The fight in my head didn't bother me. Some of the things he said to me that bothered me.
Yeah.
No, it demoralised me. It was like being a gangster.
Yeah.
You know,
It's almost like you should teach him a lesson.
There's someone like Lewis, in some of that age, putting a gun to my head and putting his fist close to my face.
Yeah.
Even though the distance was right.
Yeah.
I just thought.
It sounds like you handled the situation really well. If it comes to there's the physical and the metaphysical here. If this keeps being drawn into your life, then it's something you need to look at. It's not to do with them. It's nothing to do with them. It's to do with what you're drawing into your orbit. But while you're working this game out, it's not about people abusing you. It doesn't mean you can't. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have to be physical at some stage. It doesn't mean you let people walk all over you because we can't do that. But you may have to do something temporarily, even if it's just an aggressive fence, just create an aggressive fence. Or even better still, if you can rise above that, just saying, you know what, I'm going to go inside. I'm just going to close the door and go inside. And then sort out the issues that you've got there, whether it's the issues with something inside you. Because I just think at a physical level, it's an aggressor. At a metaphysical level, it's a teacher. And I know that can sound wank, but that's how I live my life. For me, if someone's in my orbit, they've got something to teach me. And I want to get my confidence so high, that there is no room for them to do that. So I just think physically, you might need, if that's happening to you, you might need to find a way of, working with a more aggressive fence, and just creating a gap and posturing, if that's what you need to do, or just being firm. But metaphysically, you need to look at it and ask yourself, why are these guys in my orbit? Why have I got gangsters in my orbit? And don't worry too much about it, because if it's bringing out black dogs, and they're black dogs that need to come out, because that's what Churchill called the black dog, is you dealt with the situation, you wasn't physical. Personally, I think that's the right thing to do. If you're feeling bad about it, I think that's good as well. I like the fact that you're feeling bad about it, because it means there's a part of you, the shadow is out there, and you've got to deal with that. And we're not talking about the base level, because if we're talking about that, then we're back to the doors again. We're talking about getting to the level where you're not even creating it in your life. I haven't created it in my life probably for 15 years, but I've had one or two near misses. We had it on the films, didn't we, Shaz, when some guy one of the extras, but a boxer, but he couldn't see it. And he kept saying to me, I can't see it. And I tried a couple of things just playing around and it didn't work. But he said, I just don't see it. And his mate says, what's the matter with you? And he said, I just don't see it. I said, well, I'm fucked then, aren't I? He says, if you can't see it, then I'm in trouble. And in my head, I just kept thinking, this guy's in trouble. With me, he's in trouble if it becomes physical. But I just kept thinking it's triggering something. So I went away immediately, and it was on my mind. And I said to Sharon, this guy, went away, it's on my head. So I went away and I sat down and I accessed God in my head, whatever you want to call that. And I said, I'm going to go and see this guy again, and I want to see God through him. And I walked over to him, and I said, I'm going now, I probably won't see you again, but I just wanted to shake your hand and say, you've taught me something really good today. And this guy just fucking was destroyed, melted, completely, utterly destroyed, because he saw what I wanted him to see through me, but he got me, you understand? But that's the first time that's happened in 15 years. It's just, obviously there's a shadow there, Glenn, so this guy, if I was in your position now, I'd be in my prayers just saying thanks for this guy. Yeah. He's just like your son with a mask on, tricking you. It's in the Kabbalah, they talk about the fact that all these people come into your life are the same person with a mask on, trying to trick these shadows out of you. That's what they're there for. And there's a feeling that later on you'll all be sat in the room, I fucking caught you with that mask, my gangster mask when I was in my car, I caught you, I brought that shadow out. So I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying I've mastered it, but I'm saying that's the game, especially with you, with your skills. You know, and you know, you have the skills to do all that stuff. It's hard to let go of it. But it's even harder for you to let go of it because you're in an environment that is hugely physical, and sometimes people look up to you. It's when these things happen, this shadow comes out of here, this way, comes out here. And what we do is we think that shadow's us. So we sit in it and think, he did this, he hurt me, he said that, I felt this. But actually what you've got to do is, like in the power of now, is you've got to separate you from that shadow. So that's the part of you need to evolve beyond. So when that comes out, this guy's done something, it's triggered it, it's plopped out, and it's gone like that. What you need to do is you need to observe those feelings, but don't comment, don't go into the storytelling, just observe them. And that's how you dissolve shadows. So this is, I think it's really good. And if you feel really shit, even better. What all I've learned to do is turn it around quicker. So it happens to me, I turn it around normally within a few minutes, but it's just taking you longer.
I think it's good to caught me by surprise.
That's what happens. You've got to walk through your life like you're walking over a frozen lake. So, but there's some good comments there. So, let's do something physical before we run out of time. Grab a set of pads. Thanks for that, Emma, that was brilliant, Bab. So we're going to do 1,000 right crosses before break. Just a right cross, 1,000 in your own time. 100 swap, 100 swap. What we used to do at the club in the old days was we would isolate a technique and just drill it and drill it and drill it. When it comes to physical confrontation, you're only most likely just going to use one technique. So you could do it with a left hook or a left cross. Actually, you can choose a punch, whatever you want to do, but just one punch, 1,000 repetitions. And we don't want to be massive. I just want form at the moment. So if you look at just slightly, Al. Just from there, that's it, yeah. Just that shape. I want to get you so loose that you feel as though your whole body's doing the work. And you can build it up, do some hard, do some soft, you know, do some very quiet, do some very slow, but I want 1,000 before break. You will find something when you start doing drilling, as long as you're drilling properly, as long as you're keeping the form. It's important if you're working with somebody that they keep form when they're doing it, that you don't lose form. Otherwise you're doing 1,000 of the wrong thing. So if you want to become world class at something, isolate it, drill it, feed it, get world class escalational instruction, and it will just keep growing. So for me, if I do 40 rounds, some of them might just be no contact at all. Just getting the shapes all the time, you know, just looking at getting that feeling. And then there's a feeling that will come with it as well. So I like to do a lot of jab hook, just jab hook, and get massive power on a huge, heavy bag, one of the bags that hurts your hand, and just go jab hook, just a very small hip twist, and you get tremendous power. But that's just coming from doing tens of thousands of repetitions. So have a break, have a cup of tea, have a biscuit, whatever you want, and we'll get back in a bit. Okay, thank you. The processional effect. This is Buckminster Fuller. If you get a chance to read it, the book's quite dense, but it's a beautiful metaphor for how I see life. What you give out is what returns. When you serve others, it comes back to you. But when you talk about service, it's the same as anything else. It has that corny feel to it. Oh, I like to serve. What I like about Buckminster Fuller was that he recognised that every time he served other people, it came back to him in abundance. And every time he did stuff just for himself, it never worked. So we developed this system where we just hit the things that served other people. He said, I don't want to sound like I'm being a great bloke or an altruist. He said, this just works. And this Buckminster Fuller became one of the most prolific inventors in history from the penniless start. He got to the age of 32 and had been a terrible failure. So he said he was sick of reading books because they were all giving him conflicting advice. Some said this and some said that. So he said, what does my experience tell me? What is true for me? It's what Geoff did as well. What's true for me? What does my experience say? And his experience told him that every time he did something that was for the better good of other people, he was showered with rewards. And every time he just thought about himself, it never worked, or it didn't work, or it worked but not very well. So he had this whole thing that from now on, I'm not going to take anybody else's advice. All I'm going to do is do what I know has worked. So he only did things, he stopped trying to make a living, he only did things that he knew would serve the most amount of people. And if you go on the internet and put him on the internet, he had a prolific life. This critical path, he wrote a book called The Critical Path at 85. And what he discovered was that the honeybee thinks it's collecting honey for the hive. That's what he thinks, he's just serving the hive. But actually the side effect of the honeybee is that every time it collects honey, it catches pollen on its tail and it pollinates all the flowers. So it basically has a pivotal effect on the ecostructure. So it thinks it's collecting honey, but it's actually affecting the whole world. That's the side effect. So what he said was the side effect of service is actually the main effect of nature. With Watch My Back, I was a guy that was plagued by fear, and I had all this depression and all these shadows. And I kept buying books that said, we'll tell you about fear, I'll explain to you about fear, I'll give you the secret. And none of them did. All the books that I read didn't tell you. They either didn't know or they didn't say. They weren't brave enough to talk about it. So I said, when I learn about it, when I find out, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to tell everybody the truth. That was my incentive. My incentive accidentally was to tell everybody, because I knew I suffered and I thought there must be lots of people that suffer. So I'm going to tell everybody about it. So I wrote Watch My Back. My aim with Watch My Back was to serve other people. I had no interest really in serving myself, just to say to people, this is what I found. So Watch My Back became global. Watch My Back is still going all around the world. It's had, it teaches people about film, it's global. There's a play, there's a £2 million film coming out. There's a short film that's been to 32 international festivals, all come from the fact that my instinct was to serve people. I wasn't interested in making money from that book. I was just glad to get it out there. So Bouncer ends up, as a favour to somebody, it was BAFTA nominated, went to 32 international festivals, and it started my career as a writer in film. But that was because I give it away. There was no thought of me, no thought of money, no thought of fame or anything like that. It was just like, oh, I like these people. I actually said to Sharon, I'm going to give them this because they're dead nice. And I gave them it, and, just to help an aspirant, it's been to 32 international festivals, BAFTA nomination, it's got the whole thing. The side effect of that film, although there was no profit in it, there was obviously no profit, it actually cost me money, because me and Sharon ended up paying for all the catering and everything. So it actually cost me money, but what I've got back from that, I couldn't measure. It's huge. Brown Paper Bag was a favour. I was on set on Bouncer with Ronnie Fox and Ray Winston, and I could see Ray Winston's a big international star, and Ronnie Fox is in his shadow. They're best mates, but he's in his shadow. So I said to Ronnie, he was talking about, give us a call. I was talking to Ronnie, and he was telling me about when he was in AA and NA, and I said, oh, I could write a great film for you, thinking I'll do him a favour, I'll write a film for him to star. He's never starred in a film, I'll write a film for him to star in. No thought of money. We had no money. We didn't get any funding. We made the film for £3,500. Ronnie was the star of it. Everybody worked for free. It actually cost me money again, but it got an international reputation. It won a BAFTA. It got Ronnie 70 grand's worth of work in 1 year. And that all came as a favour. I did it as a favour. So the main event was quite small, but the actual side effect of the main event was global. And all the stuff where I tried to make loads of money kind of sometimes worked a little bit and sometimes didn't. The main event never brought me the big stuff when I was serving myself. When I was serving other people, the main event was huge. So what I've started to do now is look at what Buckminster Fuller said, was that he only went for things that he knew would serve the most people. The more people he could serve with his inventions and his products, the more it would come back to him. So if he served, if he could do something that would serve the whole planet, it would come back on him. So in the Bible it says, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all things will be given unto you. So that means if you can serve everybody, that everybody includes you. So he went out there and he just served other people, and he didn't try and make a living, and it took him a while. He had to do a few things that he didn't particularly want to do till he got his confidence with it. But again, if you get a chance when you go back and look him up on the internet, you'll see what a prolific life he had. An absolutely, unequivocally amazing man. An amazing, amazing man. And he started from nothing, no money, started penniless, no education. He wanted to prove that a normal person with no money could have a global effect. But it's not about saying to people, did I tell you I did this, and I did this for this guy, and I'm a great bloke, I did it for that guy. Same as Buckminster Fuller. He's saying this is proper selfishness. I'm not being a great bloke. I'm saying to you, I'm doing this because it works for me, because I get abundance back from it. In the Upanishads, it said, they took abundance from abundance, and abundance still remained. There is so much out there. There is a huge amount out there. It is a very exciting time. There's nothing that you can't achieve. The key is to keep it contained, because the power is in the containment. The moment you announce it and tell people, it's not that it's a bad thing, it's just that you release it. So it's about serving and making the service anonymous. It's about being generous, but not talking about the generosity. Or if you're teaching and you may have to use examples, try and make examples that are obvious. Like, it's obvious for me, some of these things, they're very visible to you anyway. Watch my back, bouncer, brown paper bag, and that kind of stuff, they're obvious. The thing I said about the honeybee is that we are aware, as sentient beings, we're aware that the side effect of service is massive success. We're aware of that. The main thing you need to know is that what you give out will return. It will keep returning. So you need to be giving out so much to so many people, serving so many people. If you can, find something that will serve everybody, the kingdom of heaven, and then it will shower on everybody, and you'll be one of those everybody. So service is, service makes the physical game look like, it makes it look like, kids in a playground. It's so small, but we access that information and we access that ability through the physical. So the physical is important, but it's all about getting us out to here. Buckminster Fuller says 1 in 10 million understand this. That on its own is enough incentive to go out there, and if you don't understand it, to practice it and try it. And I'll guarantee you it works. So, Al, would you mind just doing something to finish for us? Anything you want, physical, just to get a sweat up, because it's a bit cold, isn't it? Need to get people sweating a bit.
Okay, you all got partner? We'll get cracking straight away. I won't bother doing a warm-up. This exercise will be your warm-up to start with. So the key is just take it nice and light to start with. We're just going to do some light pulling. Okay, so warm up, so change grips a lot, okay, so just keep working the grip, so you get a lower stance, a deeper stance, it burns the thighs, so it means you can put your back up, keep your neck up, so your hip needs to stay up, and it stops me being able to pull you down that way, okay, so you use your back, and you just keep moving. The minute I start to use him as my kind of post to balance, then I'm dead in the ball. Exactly. So you need to kind of keep away, but you also need to keep upright. So from a boxing guard, your stance goes a little bit wider, you sink down, and you start to look up, and you get that kind of straight in the ground. Exactly, yeah. That's why wrestling has such big legs, because you're just squatting all the time.
It's kind of a neutral between.
Exactly. The key with all of this, and if you wanted to take this analogy into anything else, it works the same. If I'm on the floor and I want to finish the guy, I've got to have control first. All right? I can't go for a finish until I've got control. And that works whether I'm on the floor, whether I'm standing up, whether I'm boxing, whether I'm kicking, whatever it is I'm doing, and it works outside as well. I have to have a stable platform, I have to have a base, and I have to be in control before I can go in for the finish. You know, I've got some books coming out soon. I can write all the books and get them all printed, but if I've got no stable platform from which to market them, to promote them, then I just end up with a ton of books in the office that go nowhere. And I have to have that prepared, so I have to be stable and in control first. And this is the same. There's no point in me kind of going for a throw. If we're 50-50, we've got an equal grip here, so that neither of us are in charge. There's no point in me trying to get a finish from here just because we're both equal, and anything I do to go for a finish will expose me to something else. Right? So if I try and grab a leg or something, I'm immediately exposing myself to something else. So I've got to be in charge first, and that's the point. Get control, get in charge, dominate the grip, and then you can look at going for finishes. There's no point me trying to choke Lewis if I haven't got control over him first, because as soon as I go in for a choke, he'll explode out of it. I'll give him a gap. So I only go for a choke. It's kind of this analogy. If I grab his throat to try and choke him, from here I've got no control, and all he's got to do is just pull away, because I've got to chase him. If I'm here, and I'm hanging on to him, and I've got control over him first, then when I go in for it, there's nowhere for him to go. I can really tuck in, I can grip, and grab my own collar. Then I can get the finish, because I've got the control first, all right? And I'm in charge here. So what we're looking at first is trying to find ways now. We're doing 50-50 bullying, we've been changing grip. We're going to look at ways of dominating the grip. And we've done it on some of the classes before, but there's just some little tricks. A couple of guys who've done some privates with me will already know these, okay? The first one, which is dead easy, is as we change grip, so we're just changing grip 50-50, we're both coming in, okay? All I do is I leave this one here as we change, and I stop him from coming through. So now I can get an inside grip, and all I've done is just sneaked my elbow across. So can everyone see that? If you want to kind of come around to one side, you'll be able to see it. It's dead simple, and it won't last forever, so it's just a little trick to get you into a dominant position, and then you've got to work from there. Incredibly dangerous, so you've got to stay up there, but equally I can't lift that off. If he's got a good tight grip there, you'll never get it off your head. So the only way you can do it is to kind of drop. Particularly if you sweat a lot like me, it's great because they just slide off, you know. So get really sweaty first and then fight. But yeah, so you just kind of drop the weight, pull it away, and then we're in a good position. It feels a bit of a weird grip, but I'm really in charge now. It's now I can start to So, Lewis. One of my favourites from here, and we just mentioned it, I do this a lot, is when we break through, I wrap an arm. It might only be just for a second, just to try and upset him a little bit, because all he'll think about now is getting that arm out. Unless he's a really cool player, in which case he'll just think, well actually, I've got a nice underhook. So he might listen, I've got a nice underhook here, I'm in charge. But for me, getting this arm down here, tying it off, what I do is I try and get a lot of body movement into it, crank it off. That starts the panicking then, because he's thinking, this arm's in trouble, he can't do anything with it really. So you can feint it, you come this way, you start getting throws, just because he's thinking, God, get that arm out. And it's dead easy for me to just tie this up. Literally I just keep my arm up by my chest. Alright, so we're coming from here, as we're swapping grip, I just wrap it round. What I tend to do is kind of punch over his shoulder, so if you can watch it from kind of there. I punch over his shoulder, I want to get it nice and deep, and if that stays on my neck, then I just drill it. it's really tight. It actually really puts a crank on it, tightens it up. But for me, it's just a great position. And one of the things I'll do from here, I'm giving away all my trade secrets now. So forget this the minute you leave the room, okay? In case we ever wrestle. What I'll do from here, problem from here is I'm a bit tight. Okay? I'm a bit too close to him to really do anything. I've got to start trying to make a bit of space for myself. And when Lewis did some of the throws the other week, he talked about making that space, you know, making the gap for myself. So I need to do the same thing, and this is very similar. What I'll do is I'll slip away a little bit now. So now I've got a grip here, so I've got a little bit more of a gap. And my favourite is to sneak in and start going for fireman's lifts. Yeah. You all okay with break falling, by the way? Yeah? All right? So, does anyone need to see it again? I'm sweating like my
Just say as well, there's a lot of people worried about the actual lift. But I know for a fact, like when my dad was teaching this to a couple of guys, you got Sharon to show it on one of the guys. So Sharon's done it on, you know, quite hefty guys. So it's not a particularly heavy lift to do. It's completely possible, no matter what part you move with.
It's getting right in. We said this before. If I want to come in to pick Lewis up and I get to this, I'll never pick him up. I've got to get close. I've got to get underneath him. And it's just a squat. I'm not picking him up with my back.
So it's about posture then, it's just
using
your upper body. Like.
The real technique, if you do squats, when you do squats at the gym, you always look up at the ceiling, you keep your back up, keeps your back straight. This does the same thing. So whenever I come to here, I always look up at the ceiling. Yeah? And you'll see a lot of wrestlers, if you watch wrestlers, some of the old school wrestlers, they're almost like they're staring into space all the time. When they're on the floor, they're staring. And what they're doing is they're using that to posture. So they come in, they stare, look at the ceiling, and they do a suplex. So it keeps the neck up, it keeps the back up, back straight, and it forces you to then use legs to pick up. Yeah? So with this, again, from here, create a bit of a gap, I come in, and I'm going to try and, if I can pull him onto me, that's great, because then I'm squatting using my legs. If not, then I pull him onto me by sitting down, yeah? So I just drop, and I either drop there, that kind of, this arm is what pulls him over. See what I mean? So you shouldn't really take any strength, you shouldn't sweat like I do. It's because I'm fat and out of shape. Okay? It's all technique. You should be able to pick up, any one of you in here should be able to pick up anyone else, that's the point. And not injure yourself, so.
Not Richard, like.
Not Richard, apart from Richard. Is that okay? So have a go. Be really careful where you land, make sure you've got some space, and be gentle with your partner, so lower them down. Your partner should be able to help lift to start with. From that, the thing to learn is you've got to be in control first. Be in control, then dominate, then you can go for a throw or a finish, whatever you want to do. But it won't work unless you're in control first, and that's the same for everything. So that throw would never have worked if you couldn't tie off the arm and get into a position of dominance first. All right, so that's the thing to take away from that. Just, that's not a reality thing. I've never done that outside. I've never done it for real, but I love it in wrestling. It's one of my favourite throws. You know, I get it to work a lot, but just because we drilled it tons and tons and tons. So sometimes sometimes you just train for the art, train for a bit of fun. It's not always got to be dead realistic, you know. But hopefully that, you know, take that away.
We'll expand on that next time as well, Al.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So just come round and sit down for 1 second. Great feeling again today, great atmosphere. I really appreciate everyone coming down again. It was good, wasn't it? It felt good today. Some really nice stuff. So again, see how it feels over the next 3 or 4 weeks, see what shifts, see what changes. We've got some people here who I really admire, people like Dewey, who's completely, utterly transformed his life just through information and just through, you know, accessing the kind of stuff we're doing today. So if you get a chance to have a chat with him, it's a really, really inspiring story. If you don't mind, is that okay? If people get a chance to have a chat with him about how he's changed his life. What did you used to do, Dewey? And what are you now? Now as a scientist. From a factory to a scientist. I don't know how long it's took, but you went off and studied, and yeah, just incredible, inspiring. You know, you're in a factory and you say, I want to be a scientist. They send you for a checkup from the neck up, wouldn't they? You know, because someone's going to string you up. But I just like to show people that you can become anything. You can do anything. You know, I know that categorically because it's how I live my life. But people like Dewey is a great example. People like Glenn. When I first met Glenn, he was working, you know, on the building site, setting up scaffolding. Now he's got a hugely successful professional, a lot of you know him, a lot of you are training with him anyway, professional boxing gym, and he's got an incredible life. You know, we're surrounded by people who are going from ordinary existences into extraordinary existences because they choose to do it. But it doesn't happen on its own. You have to keep reading, you have to keep chasing stuff, you have to keep looking for information, walk towards it, it'll run towards you. Sit still and nothing will happen. Right, so just keep that in mind. Next session's the last one, which is, I can't believe how quick it's gone. But thanks very much for everyone for sticking with it. I know it can be challenging at times. And I expect between now and next month, I think there's going to be some shifts in people. So notice it when it comes and know why it's there. It's all about you growing. That's what it's all about. The whole course is deliberately tied in to get things shifting inside you. I want you to try and read, there's a book called Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogananda. It's a great book. Have a read of it. It's, you know, I just found it really inspiring. I'm just reading some more stuff on his, but it's a book I read a long time ago. So, Autobiography of a Yogi. If Richard doesn't mind, he'll put it on the site. Is that okay, Rich? If you want a link to the site, he'll put it on the special link for us. So that's what we want you to read for the next session. You need to be in the habit of reading as much as you can. And if the books are challenging, they're the ones to read. It will set in and it will percolate, it will move. Okay? Great to see you. Fantastic. I love all of you. Thank you. Thank you.